coming. It's really just a dream to be here, to be spending the evening with you. I'm going to read some things that are hopefully not as scattershot as they seem like they are in my mind right now. But they're all from something I've been working on for a while called Shade. I'm going to start off by reading a poem about paradise. Paradise Now. The real shit of alchemy's new materials. The historic precedent found in early music video special effects. The Ghost mixtape as Cypher, making urban Midwest from Yokohama. Sophia Coppola making Emma Watson, Teenage SoCal, making heaven together in the dark outside the luxury condo. The paradise in the diagram of a prodigy rave bust. The phantom in the club's temporal bacchanal, Erica in the car all summer long, the daily commute home metered by ropey strands of bass and hi-hat. The sainthood of splendor assumed freely, the shine taken without invite from where it was left in the streets just waiting to be picked up. The remaining vestiges of 70s Lower East Side bar culture. The ghetto tech performance that served as replacement, the haptic weight our wants pleasured in every way possible, the constellation of things we read and eat and reread. Reason abjured or else hyper-distended beyond recognition. The obsession. The holy mandate in a vision of tantric denial. The momentary explosion of consciousness and release. The cat that doesn't give a fuck about our music because its tongue is so clean. The scene missing of a remembered childhood, smashing television sets with a hesher, an older bro, or friend's older bro. The Rorschach patina of wings emerging from bloodstained cotton. The elliptical religion that promises an end to constraint through constriction. The promise of soft young plateaus. The draw of unseen bodies, cool limbs of creatures born entirely from need. The deep breath past the press of economics on our lungs. The hope for unspecified economic collapse and the erasure of the constant thought of the wagered kingdom, the flattening of mathematics in scale to bare mitosis, the renewed celebration of embryonic landscapes, the biology of excess, the vista of objects without correlative value, the law of growth unburdened by the law, the practical applications of everyday magnified and struck through with intense light and color, the sustain of synthetic base melting separate existence down to sweat, then spurting it upward into a new renewable fountain. The translucent mucus that supports our lives at work and holds all the buildings upright. The infinitely reducible point of dazzle in the mirror ball of the present. The almost imperceptible nuance of a session logger. The perfect Kari restaging materials of a disparate landscape into a fugue of heat and aromatics. The sweetness of it. The sweetness privileged over the greatness. The songs as pure ornament. The relationship contended to be a perfect accessory to luxury. The pretty and the law. The evenly tanned bodies that travel with the sun and currents and weather. The lithe, multilingual bodies, the play of water and limpidity across their borders. The choral pop ballads that blow in, casting dry skins away like clouds of confetti, the tonal range of names cried out of bed, their duration and emphasis, the precision of the vague and its central position, becoming non-locatable, the pink roses by the cash register. Common people. Sheer artifice of the body. No new thoughts traveling back and forth across a steady line of narration, not even novel permutations of a self pulled apart or recombined by text, but dire consequence. A world of raw materials where every action is also a performance. All that night, I wondered what you would really think when it finally got to the point where you'd see me naked. As even at first glance, I daily objectify and then deconstruct every aspect of my form, so common to me at this point that even the best moments, my stomach flatter in the morning, my hair a little untamed, messy, a sort of chic disorder the morning after I wash it, somehow it always breaks apart, and when taken together, the parts don't add up. What's missing? a disruption in the rich flow of vast physical life beyond me. In the morning, incapable of accepting or navigating this new tear, avoiding the thought of correspondence like that quote Tom opens his book with, a thing is a whole and a thing it is not. I hate my legs. And looking at them now, it seems so apt, uncanny. In general, what's a form? Some smooth plus some folds, fullness needing little details, and so how to begin redefining a self when one's most immediate community collapses, and then not to fall back on the shame of unforeseeing how the ends of something so open would eventually play out. Is my story a fold in hers? Artifice of the body politic and the common place we all find ourselves in, born to criticism, theorems, specialists forever sliding back into seeming universals like adding one and one together, some privileged indulgence, indifference, all prefaced by a self in the midst of bizarre social segmentation around loss, self-consciousness imposed, as if the whole weren't a point of connection struck through all of us, something we could pass a thread through and tie ourselves together. Where is the community that distills confession, provides balance and shape to the bite of liquor? Shame of exposure, shame, I guess, of some ultimate equanimity, like we're spoken into existence for now, spoken into each other, but ourselves remain or are forced to remain locked in aphasia. Robert, I can't stop reading the problem of language and desire. It's star maps bound around limbs, histories we speak ourselves into ecstatic positions where words eventually circle but never fully penetrate. The social must be teased out in the indicative, the active, arrows or appendages exploring an interior space beyond description, some solid thing to puncture the bustle of the mind, Marissa wrote. Strange balances between form and disorder, drawing out loss, taunt as a poison limb, sucking on it all the while, hoping the flesh will blossom in return. How could I attempt to make any type of definition when each moment I feel our implacable problem looming here to freeze this vague state we find ourselves in and sketch it like a cop by a cruel? And what develops instead? A picture without specific history, growing brighter, opening toward the future, its fraught terms traced out by a chorus of infinite reducibility, till we're finally brought back to the persistent problem of clarity, beauty, worth, and attraction to something unattainable but trained in, casted, hardened, then later violently removed, leaving flecks, remnants, little pieces of skin to actively examine a complicity. The perfect artifice of my body tied up with only a muscle memory of the knots. And the only way to get through is to look at our social lives cleaving to the other side, negation, the utopic kernel beneath the ornate shell of its failure, the body inside the artifice without it. I'm a little nervous. I feel better. I feel better that I said it, though. Yeah. Cool. This is really cool. I like drinking out of a little carafe. Very cosmopolitan.
That's what we have over here.
I'm going to read some poems. I developed a sort of obsession with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Just because I don't know, I've had this conversation with people, like, he's the perfect example of someone who completely decides that the world is mind over matter. Like, I'm going to decide to do something, and then it doesn't matter what the result is. Like, if I'm bad at it, I'm still going to be it. Like, I'm going to be, I'm going to be a bodybuilder. He ends up being the biggest bodybuilder of all time. I'm going to be an actor. He ends up being the biggest action film star of decades. I'm going to be a politician. He marries Kennedy. Ends up being a two-time governor of California. You guys know that. But, I mean, there's so much around him. And I don't know. I don't like explaining poems. I just wanted to, like, give you a little description of why I have an obsession with Arnold Schwarzenegger. But it's a serial piece. It's called Predator. It has an epigraph by J.H. Prynne. Heavy metal, then, is the storm of a sexual fury. You guys appreciate this, because I'm just like, I've been writing poems about Arnold Schwarzenegger. I know we once came from some foreign metal mouth screwed up and stuck together with insolvency. some hot mess we discovered in our body politic, some beautiful weather we've been having every day on the banks of the LA River, discarded road signs, busted machinery. I said, build yourself from the ground up, build a beachfront, walk on their bones, their patrician faces split in half, spilt shells and swarming intent, your body an accidental chest shot, not slowing down the focus, immediate movement from need to acquisition, the pause to have been a little blood in the liquor, a pinched buttock or divested exclamation, an impasse, the rock against which these blown limbs could shatter, a genuine call for help would maim us over and over again. And we remain children of the great Styrian Northwest, where all our fathers go to disappear into forests smelling of gunmetal pressed up against lips of a rock that vertiginously fall off the edge of that vast green void. Your hand would grasp, then strain our bodies in dead weight ever upward. Your challenges, always nameless, always inverted in slow-mo tumor, the routine of continuity, the cause and effect of. We're listening to Fela Kute's Zombie and thinking of the new John Wayne, to whom your redrafted borders would seem so strange, so forced. Ubiquity for a time writes a million sins, makes more than the sun, makes an end of days a knotted ball of taffy stuck up among the stars. Mr. Universe, the minter of a new tarot, one to store up our collective memories, the dreams of what we secretly desire, a liquor stronger than marriage. The head is carried around by something very mysterious. Its aphorism elected from lack of safety. So tell us your greatest fantasy. Together we can make it real. In dark theosophy, you're overdeveloped, a young red giant crushing on Paris, Taiwan, or blonde Godzilla cresting the horizon's silk, a Barbary privateer, metal splinters against your skins, celluloid stuffing the crotch of Robert Duncan with the vapors in a French cinema. The latter politics of a rapidly balding skull fuck, muscles or merest existential mush, a warrior planetoid, a speculative poet of the deepest gash, a Corey or proceduralist who's been up in that hole before, struck with a formal curse like fucking bearskin lodged in the letter of his law. Jesus is very playful, and you called your dick a woman. You said they hurt to be inside you, to be willfully costumed, to be seen as not soft, but to be soft and willful, not hurting by objection, but to be comfortable only wearing lifts and spaghetti strap shirts with skulls cut into the back, wearing 12 more pounds of latex, to be well-defined and the perfect size. The second mouth behind your ear whispers about the price of meat in Stuttgart, of beer in Brooklyn, only a proportion of the desire they have for you. A finger broken off, Sea Star and custom Armani suit, shit and candy in the water, your stare like a block of hash, just sitting there and passively waiting. It's about a basic interrogation, organic growth from the inside out, forests of hydrogen, a blockbuster rom-com about the first Hummer starring Taylor Swift as the bodybuilding politician, you, the misunderstood light truck, with Verhoeven directing the plot's last-ditch attempt to haul that plastic island out of the Pacific, to actually compose something as fucking sweet as a naturalization ceremony that ends in beautifully choreographed slaughter. What sort of invocation could triple our gross domestic product, could tear down the very celestial bodies themselves as raw material, and then draft a new map of the city as a constellation of skin flicks, grease marks, crates of unused ammo, just waiting for the next inevitably corrupt government official with stolen experimental weaponry to frame the righteous, vaguely foreign rogue agent, to kidnap the skeletal love interest, plant C4 beneath Muscle Beach, to alert the media of Nazi sympathy, basic disingenuousness, or an army of love children linking hands to form a human shield, as when the blinking red battery light flickers on the screen and I realize that I'm still waiting on what I came for, the endless white sky, bare flesh clinging to a chain-link fence, our scattered piles of dust for the strongest, most insatiable thing ever made, sent back to its jerkwater beginnings. Place a picture of the before me next to the one after me, and I will play both parts at the same time. I stick out like a sore thumb. If my twin could act more vulnerable, it would look like Jeremy Irons, circa Dead Ringers, an obsession with discovering where my flesh ends. I never planned to be a public servant. I never planned on being Mr. Olympia for the 7th time. At the 11th hour, it just happened. It was something he had to do for me, like a sudden possession. Added an extra foot to my height, 100 pounds of muscle to my frame. Where you begin, now I'm grafted onto this oak and swing gently in the breeze. What seemed to be, what a simulacrum, the immediacy of my shame. The window inevitably breaks. You've swung through on a cable, and shit, the night's all gone. I left my partner in another city. She's on Facebook again, and I'm eating meat for the first time in 10 years, licking salt from the summer's seemingly endless bacchanal, all cow-eyed while you hover somewhere close in a cloak of invisibility, just reading the heat. I know the beginning of a joke about the muscle-bound emigre, the professional wrestler, the alien, all the rest, hunter and hunted, they become our father's guts, strewn across the jungle. I'm still hoping she can tell me the end. I've been working on a book about the idea of the infinitesimal when I suddenly thought, fuck this. And instead, reread the screenplay of Total Recall. Listening to Aja again for probably the millionth time, I'm ready to cross that fine line, and I think I finally found a way forward through this perfect mess of correlation, the casual happenstance of sex and violence set to the smoothest, bleakest yacht rock soundtrack that you've ever heard. We swam in it, the bitterness of not remembering, of having a peripheral past like fashion buoyed up in pieces, intermittently breaking the surface. Francis Yates' The Art of Memory has been sitting on my bookshelf for years now next to Adorno's Minima Moralia, and I've read just a couple of lines from each. It seems appropriate that I keep picking up Friday the 13th, reading the back of the case, but still haven't ever watched it. I often think of how Jason, Chucky, Pennywise constantly haunted me, how they still at times continue to haunt me, stumbling upon previews and movie posters plastered everywhere. When I was young, I read a book about a shape-shifting alien trapped on Earth who needed the blood of a human to fix his ship and escape, who turned into a golden retriever near the end of the story just to get close to us. About how once I was chased into the road by a neighbor's German shepherd, how dogs will often still make me feel slightly uneasy. I struggle against this fleck of liquor in my windpipe and think you can never completely trust your senses or knowledge. Even your closest friend might be some insatiable thing, far beyond. Or some unseen star or the bottom of a lake might be in pain, swinging out blindly. What birthed our infinite reducibility anyways? I want to get close enough to ask Quado, why are you really trying to alter our entire atmosphere? Love or lust or nobility, 1,000 dreams. Even as I point a finger, could I deign to cut it open and trace a gateway in the air? What complicity, what undetermined need actually brought about this judgment? This is for you, David. This next poem, Howard Hughes. Wave of the future, refrain, stretching emphasis, ecstatic revelation into a troubling idée fixe. I've been trying to write this poem about Howard Hughes, and in discussing its trouble, Rachel Levitsky brought up The Aviator. Leonardo's speed as the eye of the film, a filmic blur, the body again stretching itself to the point of total focus, exhaustion, exuberance, a speed premeditating complete removal, as if the physical form, extended or blasted through space at rates previously unimagined, could in the same way be completely moved from linearity through sheer will and almost limitless resources, could float above the Princess Hotel, the Desert Inn, fantastic ship of the flesh, Virilio notes early in the aesthetics of disappearance, that Howard refused to ever wear a watch while spending his latter days and nights lying naked on the penthouse floor, unraveling unseen future generations, all our gaunt scarecrow limbs loosened as we become ghosts strung out across Vegas, Acapulco, in children's stories, the city now the desert, its panopticon, a heavy-lidded eye finally closing by an endless loop of video, our utopic joy and hope for nothing but the abject white light cycling in through his eyes, out from his mouth, flashing intermittently back into a new night unlit by stars. I'm going to read 2 more. Is that good? Okay. You could say no. This is called I'm Yours. Tonight we open our mouths and everything comes tumbling out. The scattered gossip of the day merges into an embarrassment of physical riches, a mobile lab where we test the parameters of obsession, a sandbox of sugar where I can bury our remains. Tonight, I want to make an imprint of your face in the impending snow. I feel writings just bare, comparison, shitty equivocation like rice paper flowers in the winter glare. On the mantle of my heart, I've set a silent frozen relief. It's Christmas again in at least 3 states, and I text you my love with a double-edged intent. As when he was young, David Bowie assumed his nom de plume to breathe life into a direct association between thought and flesh, forever altering himself in the way we move tonight. Our social history bulges like negative space in 3D. There are echoes of people fucking in the apartment 1 floor up. Maybe in this moment they're in love. I'm just going to read a poem about spring breakers, but you guys can see that later if you want. It seems gauche for some reason. Not the movie. This is called Propositions. This will be my last poem. Thank you guys so much. It's really wonderful to be here. In the soft pink light, the song begins and a universe is conjured up from its former promise. In it, we become fully attuned, alive to the thrum of the city transit. Above, the soft blue light sways. Lionel Richie sings all night long. On the display screens in our minds, the perfect bodies of younger friends and relatives, those with multiple advanced degrees appear. Resigned not to look for real jobs either, instead they remain held up in the frame of our imagined pleasure. Brought alongside with a sort of solidarity in the way that light and music can first gently touch, then completely penetrate us willingly, that we can feel there's a reason we move the way we do. It arose in the moment of being felt, then bloomed improvisation. First G, then A minor, then F. Like the vague phrase we use as a placeholder for a title, a filter, a proper name that's been omitted, and we know any future that awaits us will erase these particulars, leaving behind a rich, limitless ocean of material without particulation. So this dance is preternatural. I think of Lionel's hands gliding effortlessly over the newly formed clay features as a way to contain the myriad complexities of our social contract. A cliff notes for body pleasure, predicated on the condition of another's, so we dance as a way to streak contrails through the light. Context as no future, so to register momentary felt impressions together that create flesh. The train wakes us from the reading. The night lights up, and this becomes context for the uncomfortable silence that precedes an insurgent wave of pop music, of which the city is a fundamental part. It comes upon us in greater swells of vague material, multicolored light and sound and touch, pleasure that we hope can usurp the sovereignty of time and specificity. Lionel emerges as a distinct face in the crowd before the performance begins. The crowd is awash of bright hands touching faces. Their gestures implode the buildings along the railway. A walking promenade emerges, then a flash mob fills in its peripheries. Curves of vibrant green and pink merging against the opening backbeat. The tension of our movements together contract, then relax into a fluid expansion. I see Sarah's face in the crowd foregrounded against the white wall in the back of the art space, and then the duration of Love's bodies appear spread out above me as I lay on the floor. In the morning, the train runs its circulatory pulse between Brooklyn Heights, Soho, and Ridgewood, Queens, distilling the fantasy in the blood. The dance's radio dominance for years now pounding in our ears, the Showtime performances gaining ubiquity, the young bodies inverted on poles and handrails to songs perfectly timed to fill the gaps of travel between stations, now ambience. All night long, recycled and looped on a live drum kit sampler combo, burning a secret hole through the air above the Union Square platform. We talk about the dappled light falling beneath the tree limb arches and cross hatchings of the elevated line like religion. Slipping through the beveled skylight mingling with the recurrent roar of the M train, giving form to bare space and our sudden dancing to a song that names itself after the ecstatic peak of our central utopia, then rejects its very foundation in turn. Like nothing remains forever. But for a moment, like at the end of Bruce Boone's Century of Clouds, the Marxist conference attendees meet at a local cowboy bar when Sister Sledge's summer anthem begins, dissolving the larger socio-political impasses, leaving a solidarity of raw physical closeness, of complementary movement. We are family, a collective willing together of untenable social desires, a more straightforward politics of oscillating light and artificial fog, of sweat condensing on the rafters, making it rain. All the connective emissions unexpurgated, bursting out all night long, that suggestion of what's to come made hard by its own invitation. Thanks.